So I was thinking about what to say today, and I went back to my notes from 2017. I think it was just after my ordination. We had the monastic, exploring monastic life, and I found my notes one that I don't know, maybe those few years I remember there was among participants, maybe there was some ordination fever going on. And there was a note on what Venerable's advice was, if you practice sincerely, just focus on the Dharma and your practice, that the question of ordination answers itself. And I'm paraphrasing. And that also, there was also a note on the teachings from this book, Buddhism, One Teacher, Many Tradition, which Venerable went over starting 2015, and then every year after that to complete it. And it had been very helpful for me because it gave an overview of the whole Buddhist worldview, Buddhist practices, and it gave me a good foundation. And this section was on wrong page. Yes, it's the right page. So His Holiness is quoted as saying, "Stable interest in becoming a monastic develops naturally from deep reflection on the basic Buddhist teachings. As a result of contemplating compassion and dependent arising, one becomes interested in the nature of the mind, which leads to an appreciation of emptiness, rebirth, and karma. This leads to understanding the possibility of attaining liberation. When one is convinced of this possibility, one will naturally be drawn to living in a life according to ethical precepts, which would lead to taking monastic ordination. The Buddha explained the proper motivation to ordain. Here some, this is from the middle length discourse, here some clansman goes forth out of faith, from the home life into homelessness, considering, I'm a victim of birth, aging and death, of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. I'm a victim of dukkha, a prey to dukkha. Surely an ending of this whole mass of dukkha can be known." And this has been my experience over the years, that the more I study, the more I understand the Buddhist worldview and the topics, that it has been so beneficial in just creating that basis, that foundation, that stability for monastic life. And I think just also the benefit of going through these kind of wide scopes, like this whole book, having this, just in a nutshell, in a small little book, the whole Buddhist path laid out, how you practice, what can you do, even though some of the topics are very brief, but it's so beneficial for me to have that blueprint. And living in the Abbey, I was also fortunate to have, the teachings we got from Geshe Tapke, the whole Aryadeva 400. We had Precious Garland from Venerable Children. We had Gomchen Lambrim, just the period that I was living here, just being able to attend these teachings. And now with Venerable Kadro, the middle length Lamrim. So these teachings that takes a long time. I mean, it was years and years, but like while each week of the teachings, my mind goes up and down. Sometimes I want to go, sometimes I don't want to go. That kind of. And at the end of it, that whole completeness of the teachings has It's like the whole is more than the parts. Like each of the parts putting it together, and then the mind seeing that blueprint, like liberation is possible. Like what else do I want to do? And also learning the teachings, looking at, and then going back again when, when there's a new set of teaching, and when, we go back to the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha's initial teaching. Each time I go back, there is, like the understanding gets, the teachings gets tastier. Each time, it could be the same topic, but each time it's like a slightly nuanced, and like understanding dukkha. Do I really understand dukkha? How many kinds of dukkha? And it's like, even though the topics could be the same, but each time there's a slight kind of expansion. And then to understand that there are all these things that I'm experiencing that I don't want, and these miseries, that they have a cause. So I'm not helpless. It's not deterministic. That there is something, and these dukkha is a result. Then looking at the causes, like what can I do with them? For years, well, still now, some days I don't really want to work on my afflictions. I know people have heard me say, I've done enough today, I'm checking out on my afflictions. Well, and it's like there's how much capacity the mind has to work on it, and it gets tired. Like if I'm really working on it, I get really tired. So I remember like first few years, like so angry. People living here knows. The younger ones you don't know. You think I'm not so terrible, but you should ask them with children. Like, terror of terror. And like years and years, and like after quite a few winter retreat, and I kind of identified like, what is this anger? And the anger was a 3-year-old. And it's like, I think that might be one of my earliest memories, being locked in the outhouse toilet at 3 years old. Yes, the 3-year-old was so angry. Of course, frightened, but anger was huge. And then I had to work with that and what happened. So what happened was, I don't remember the front part of me asking to go to school, to go to kindergarten. So I was born in a little village. So my grandfather, my maternal side, he's, I think the family is the landowner, and somehow he's in charge. So the community center that has the only kindergarten there, I think he sponsors a lot. So at 3 years old, you're not supposed to go to kindergarten. You go at 5. But somehow I must have asked and asked and asked, and they got me in. So have uniform, everything, and after a few days, I decided that no, I don't want to go anymore. So I walked myself home after class, and just did not want to go anymore. So I think that morning my mom must have been so angry, because I was 3 years old, means I have a sister that's 1 year old, and she's trying to get to work, and there's this child that refused, even though I remember I was in uniform, refused to go to school. And my grandfather has probably done a lot of backflips to get me into the school. So I think she was trying to threaten me to go to school, and I remember locked in there, and it's an outhouse but it's a flushing function. And one of my uncles is responsible for cleaning it, so it's quite clean. So I don't remember it being very dirty. I just remember this anger and the fear was very strong, and the anger was even stronger. Like, how dare you lock me inside here? I don't want to go to school. I just don't want to go to school. So, and that was and I also couldn't remember my grandmother outside, probably scolding my mother, because she doesn't want to go to school, doesn't matter. But my mother is like, no, she has to go to school. We went through so much. Anyway, a conclusion of that is I won because I didn't go to school until I was 5 years old. But that memory, I had forgotten. And then I was like, but that anger is still there. So when I was thinking like, how old was this anger? Anger was 3 years old. And this little girl had anger that's this big, that is like I could have blown up the whole outhouse if I wanted to. That kind of, that kind of force that I can feel in my mind. So that was the anger, and like years of working on it, like just understanding the nature of this anger, looking at the afflictions of this, the disadvantage of this anger, and I'm not totally convinced yet, but I think you can verify that it's not as bad as it used to be. At least I'm not going after people as much, but don't try me. So because it's still in there. It's deep, and I think I came into this life with that, because that anger, it was like 3 years old. Who teaches you anger? And I was just a kid, right? But of course I know that my grandmother, my grandfather has my back. There's nothing that my parents can do to me. I'm kind of invincible. Yes. And I was their first grandchild, so they also don't know what to do, right? After my grandmother and grandfather has like bring up 9 children, and suddenly there's this little thing, and but it's not their kid, so they can't really be very strict with it. So what do you do with the little thing? So I think what I've understood through the years of teaching, and one analogy that was very helpful for me was thinking of the mind like a vessel. We have the 3 cups. Like, if my mind was like a vessel, I came into this life probably with things and kind of things that, things that I've done because of my behavior, actions that I've done, affliction, that there were marks, and, like there was this hurt that came in with me that the mind needs to heal. And then with the Dharma, like that was my experience, that the Dharma heals from inside. So the little dings and all that is being pushed out, and like slowly, I can feel the healing. Like this mind getting stronger, just being able to not blow out and walk out of the room. I think that's a big thing. So I think my conclusion to this is, the decision to ordain or not is the conclusion of a long process of consideration of, like, if we really see that the first 2 truths exist, I think in this book it talks about it too, then it talks about that there is a path that the Buddha showed us to practice the 3 higher trainings. And the 3 higher trainings actually show the potential of our mind, that we are capable of this, like puny little me and that Buddha up there. There's a continuum. It's a progression of cause and effect, and that we can be totally free of that. All my miseries, all my afflictions, everything, like totally happy, totally fearless. And having these 2, the 3rd and 4th noble truths in my mind, that makes me a Sangha, an Arya Sangha, the actual Sangha jewel. And the Sangha jewel practices and, purifies some more, do quite a bit of hard work, becomes a Buddha jewel. And that 3rd truth and 4th truth is also the Dharma jewel. So our objects of refuge exist. We don't have to rely on faith. And that the term Buddha in Sanskrit just means the awakened one, somebody who's awakened from the ignorance that holds us in this continual cyclic existence. So it's extremely logical. And I'm very grateful, I often think of 2,600 years ago, Buddha Shakyamuni taught all these teachings for this little girl that's going to be born in a little village, in the middle of a little island city-state, in the middle of nowhere, in a little village. Like, hardly, most people are not even educated or literate. But he taught that for that little girl, because he knows that one day she's going to understand. And that to me is like, yeah, Buddha, way to go, man. I really hope one day, I would like to meet Shakyamuni Buddha again. I'm sure I'm meeting him, but I would like to recognize Shakyamuni Buddha, that continuum, because he is still benefiting people. And hopefully, I recognized him. Hopefully he's not one of you all, because I'd probably be angry if one of you are.